I have personally experienced being denied assistance by the so called charitable organizations. When those of us were injured on the job or discriminated against, there was no help from the EEOC, legal aid, or OSHA. Unless I had a Spanish last name or was a migrant, I couldn't get help. I was denied food stamps and Medicaid. Amazon nearly crippled me. I even contacted my congresswoman, but she didn't respond. There are so many Americans in need that aren't being helped. If things don't turn around in this country, a lot more people will face eviction and homelessness. The sad fact is, many facing these times of turmoil are middle aged and the elderly. These NGOs need to be investigated and held accountable. Mike Johnson, the current Speaker of the House, needs to stop giving the NGOs money. The NGOs need to be audited to find out where the money went. The other question is, where are the children? Find them. This is Dark Star 44.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the evil of child trafficking caused by the open border policies under President Joe Biden and his administration. I served in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years until I retired as a Deputy Patrol Agent in charge in San Diego sector. I worked under 5 presidential administrations, and only one president secured the border, President Donald Trump. Border Patrol agents went from working and being supported by the greatest border president in American history to the worst, President Joe Biden. My last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year in office. On his first day in office, I watched in disbelief as 94 executive orders cascaded down from Washington, D.C., obliterating every immigration policy that had been provided the most secure border in America's history. Border Patrol agents were forced to carry out unconstitutional orders that violated every law in the Immigration Nationality Act. President Biden, through Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, created policy out of thin air, ignored federal immigration law, and facilitated the largest mass invasion into America that the world has ever seen. The United States of America will have spent hundreds of billions of dollars in 4 years to fund the needs of over 50 million illegal aliens that populate our nation. Between 1 in 6 and 1 in 7 residents in America is an illegal alien. America has suffered the greatest demographic shift in modern history. After serving in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years, spending a year researching and writing a best-selling book entitled Invaded, The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System, and filming 2 documentaries, I state with complete certainty that Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas intentionally, strategically, and purposely weaponized illegal immigration and used it as a tool to fundamentally transform America. Inside this invasion, the unspoken evil of child trafficking, and more specifically, child sex trafficking, has flourished. At the end of this current administration, the number of children trafficked will have grown to over 550,000 unaccompanied alien children known as UACs. This horrific number of children will have been arrested, released into America, and then lost. To put this into context, during President Trump's last year in office, Customs and Border Protection arrested 30,557 UACs who were accounted for and not lost. Conversely, in the first year of Biden's presidency, CBP arrested 147,975 UACs, most of which are unaccompanied for and lost. In 2023, Congressional Hearings Health and Human Services Javier Becerra and Director of Office of Refugee Resettlement Robin Marcos forced to admit that their agency had no contact with over 85,000 UACs. They were lost. What did DHS, HHS, and ORR do to correct this humanitarian disaster? Nothing. In fact, all 3 agencies created further policies and procedures to increase the efficiency of moving UACs from the border to the interior of the United States to unknown and unvetted sponsors. Unaccompanied alien children were being handed off to total strangers. Then they disappeared into the darkness of labor and sex trafficking. In fact, a year later in August of 2024, the Inspector General with oversight over DHS issued a report stating the number lost UACs was not 85,000, it was over 320,000. My business partner, Ryan Matt, and I spent 6 months traveling across America. filming a documentary titled "What is Treason Trafficked?" The evil of child sex trafficking is difficult to digest and understand. However, after conducting numerous interviews with officers, agents, and whistleblowers from every alphabet agency and department, it was made clear to us that the federal government knowingly and actively facilitated these criminal acts. After several exhaustive months of filming, interviewing, and then editing this documentary, I state without reservation that the United States federal government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. The probability that thousands of these UACs are being raped at this very moment is 100%. The call to action has three parts, my call to action, and they're swift, and they happen at the same time. Every means necessary is to be taken to ensure all four borders of the United States of America are sealed shut. 2, there's a national law enforcement emergency to locate and rescue every single one of the 550,000 unaccompanied alien children that are lost. 3, a full-scale investigation of every U.S. department, agency, and every NGO participating in this criminal act shall be launched, and every person involved shall be arrested. Finally, the intentional opening
bring their product, human beings and drugs, to the southern border. It'd be some level of interaction by CBP, by federal law enforcement, state and local law enforcement, and then unaccompanied children would be processed through HHS and turned over to non-government organizations, where they would be turned over to family sponsors, either family or non-family, but sponsors that were vetted in some manner. This is a memorandum of understanding that operated for a long time. It was quite significant between the Office of Refugee Resettlement and the United States Department of Health and Human Services, the beginning process by which unaccompanied children were delivered to sponsors that were vetted. Because of the volume of children that were coming across in the last 4 years, and a part of that, the HHS and DHS joint statement of termination of this agreement, and this is from March of 2021, my brothers and sisters. This was a policy decision to step away from the strict means by which these children were monitored and controlled. And what it was replaced with was this sponsor care agreement. There's nothing to this. It's 3.5 pages, 2 pages of nothing that the criminal networks can easily take advantage of. So we have now delivered hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied children to unvetted sponsors that have enslaved them across our country. Ms. Hopper, you have done some brilliant research on the connection between trafficking, human trafficking, south of the border, and as it networks into our country. Please expound upon what I've been discussing today.
Thank you, Chairman Higgins. You're correct. The terrorists, the cartels, sorry, the terms are interchangeable to me. They do know our policies and the 94 actions that were rescinded upon the new current administration coming in. And they actually do use our programs and the manner in which we process unaccompanied children against us. They actually use Border Patrol and refer to them as migrant Uber. They know once migrants cross the border, it's one phone call away, the Border Patrol picks them up and processes them, and then they know to write the number and name of the sponsor.
So, Mr. Carroll, we're hearing some amazing things today. Children being sacrificed to harvest organs. Of course, somebody said they don't, Mr. Ivey said he's not so sure about that. You got the amazing 8-year-old with sexually transmitted diseases, 12-year-old, 9 months pregnant. My colleagues on the minority are very concerned, though, about your language. What do you think of that?
I find it fascinating and interesting that after hearing about all this testimony, and right now, thousands of children are being raped. That's just statistical probability, 100%. Children are being murdered, and I'm going to quote President Trump when he said, a lot of these children are already dead, end quote. What I find fascinating is all of this that we got to talk about, all this tragedy that we're dealing with. And we want to talk about what I said about Speaker Johnson in a podcast that I don't even remember. I think maybe it goes back to the congressman. Would he like to ask me a question that has any relevance to helping secure these children? And then you go back further, sir. The reason why we are in this position is because we destroyed the border, not just the southern border, the northern border, and both coastlines. This is a tragedy, and it is treason, because this is not bad policy or bad mistakes or somebody's incompetent. This is intentional. So when you do intentional acts against your nation, that is treason. And I'll be glad to talk about Speaker Johnson and him funding NGOs to the hilt. I would love to talk about that as well.
Ms. Hopper, I sat in another briefing on this subject, and one of the witnesses there, a libertarian guy, as I recall, sort of said, these people that have all gone off grid, the people that ORR can't contact, that there's no problem. They don't want to, they sort of live, they don't want to have contact with official sources. I find that to be amazing, but can you respond to that? I mean, you've seen a fair number of things, it sounds like.
So if American citizens can't deflect from agencies like CPS and just respond and say, oh, these children are fine, you don't need to do a home check or foster care checks or welfare checks on American citizens, and you don't take American citizens' words that the children are fine,